plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/real ID. That's tsa.gov/real ID, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff.
Pocket party.
So part of my job then had to be to put on gloves and shove my hands into the rectums of these sea turtles to put medication, suppositories in these sea turtles.
It must have been like that must have felt strange to do that.
I loved it. Every moment of
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party. Darren.
And we're back. Hey everybody, it's your host Darren Carter, the party starter. Another episode of the Pocket Party Podcast. If you like this episode and you want to show your support, click that link below. It's called Buy Me a Coffee. I think it's like buymeacoffee.com/Darren Carter. Anyways, the link is in the description. My guest here is next to me, and I don't even know if he drinks coffee, but here he is, Daniel Lobell. He's back.
I'm Jewish, not Mormon. I drink coffee.
Yeah,
I love coffee.
I'm like, I don't know if this guy knows how to have a good time with an espresso.
It's a little bit of a slam there.
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy even likes coffee over here, This freaking guy. I mean, other people like, but this guy, come on.
Remember that when they used to say someone, he's a little light in the loafers.
Are you calling me un-American?
No. Hey, he likes a nice cup of Java.
Yeah, it's like a slam. This guy's not even American enough to like a cup of coffee.
If you know what I mean. No, he likes coffee. Do you like coffee?
I do.
I was like, I really don't know. No, you know what the reason? Here's why I said that. Actually, I bring that up. Late at night, well, because it was late at night. Maybe I'm answering my own question. I remember we did a show, and you're like, "Hey, let's get some tea." And I hadn't had tea in a long time, and we actually had some hot tea at a hookah bar type of situation.
Because, in a hookah bar, you got to go tea.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true, because usually they'll have a good Turkish coffee, which is nice. But it's late at night. I don't want to get caffeinated like that and stay up all night. Turkish coffee is very caffeinated. So when you take away Turkish coffee, I mean, you're not going to get a good cup of decaf coffee at a hookah bar. You got to go with the drinks of the East.
That's right. Yeah.
And the Middle East. And the Far East.
You know, it's funny. I one of the ways that I trim calories about 15 years ago, I stopped putting cream in my coffee and no more sugar. I don't even do like Irish. I used to do like the Irish cream and the hazelnut and all that.
I don't do cream. I don't do sugar.
Do you drink it black?
Just black, yeah.
Yeah.
I like my coffee like I like my...
I like my women like I like my coffee.
I reversed it.
Oh, yeah, reverse it. I like my women like I like my coffee.
No, I like my coffee like I like my women.
Women. Black?
Is that right?
Yes, with no cream in them. Whoa. Hey-oh.
That went dirty.
Yeah, this is a family-friendly podcast. Is it?
What was I going to tell you?
What was your strangest job?
Oh, yeah, there's the Far East.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Middle East. But I never hear about the Near East. You ever hear of the Near East?
It's always far.
There's the Far East, and then there's the Middle.
Yeah.
So there should be the near and the far, then you'd have the middle, right?
Yeah, the Middle East. And you got the Midwest.
Yeah.
You don't have the Middle West.
Do you have the Mid East?
Nah,
You never hear about the Mid East.
I don't know. Have you ever gone to the Mid East?
No, I don't think. Have I?
I don't know.
Mid East, would that be like Rhode Island? I don't know.
Yeah. Dude, I've only been to Canada and Mexico.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are the only countries you've been to besides America?
And the Mexico every time Mexico, I just went to border towns. I went to Tijuana. I went to somewhere near Brownsville,
Texas. You're
Texas.
just dipping your toe in leaving the country. You're
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to get too far into it.
I know.
That's interesting. You've never been to Europe?
No, I never have. Somebody once offered me to go to Egypt. but it was all through the internet, and it looked kind of suspicious.
Jews don't go to Egypt. I know you're not Jewish, but
Yeah.
our entire culture is centered around leaving Egypt.
Oh yeah.
So, like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're like,
it's basically the whole story of Judaism. We were in Egypt and we left. Isn't that great?
you're like, hey, you want to go back? You're like, nah, I'm good. I'm
No.
good. Yeah, I'm good. They, somebody from the internet years ago offered me to go to Cairo, and they said, this is where you'll be performing, and it was like something garden, and I Googled it, and it looked like a legit place. But then it started getting kind of crazy. They were like, you're going to stay at a 4-star hotel, and we'll fly you first class. But then it got, then it went from first class to business class, whatever, little things. Even at the time, my manager goes, my spidey sense is tingling. I don't like this. And then I was like, for all I know, maybe because it said 4-star hotel, but I'm like, oh no, my friend, we rate them over here by 100 stars.
4 out of 100.
And my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, she was going to pay me money not to go. She's like, don't go, Darren, don't go. I will. Yeah, she was like, I'll pay you not to go. And I was like, already, because I'm not.
They got to tell you a 4-star. Like, they're not going to say, we're going to put you in the Egyptian Motel 6.
The Red Pyramid Inn.
You take camels as payment, right?
Yeah, I was like not gonna go. And then there was a time when there was a comedian, shout out to Ahmed. He was trying to hook up some stuff, and I was like, but I don't know, it never really quite came up and went through, and I'm okay with it. It wasn't like I was chomping at the bit to go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't want to play for the Pharaohs?
No.
There they go, the Laugh Factory crew.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. We're outside the
we're outside the Laugh Factory. Just had a really fun set, and now we're in the parking lot once again in your Jeep. And I go, hey, let's. I go.
This is Darren's podcast studio at this point.
It's my guest's vehicles.
I have an entire podcast studio. He's got the tiniest microphone you've ever seen in your life. It's the size of a toothpick. And he just he goes, how about that podcast studio that I rented last time? My car?
Yeah, I know. Dude, you got a nice, sweet setup, man. You guys have the cameras. It looks like a TV studio.
Yeah, I guess it essentially is nowadays. Podcasts and TV, it's hard to say where the line...
It's called We Think It's Funny, you guys. I know you enjoy Pocket Party Podcast. If you're looking for another podcast to put in the rotation, I highly recommend We Think It's Funny. I know him as Daniel Lobell. Daniel Lobell and Mark Schiff. These guys are hilarious, man.
Yeah.
And they sometimes do like news topics. Like you guys will pick a few stories.
Oh yeah, a few stories. Nothing too heavy, nothing too much. We have a little fun. We tell some stories. We have some laughs. I don't know why I'm talking like that, but it's...
yeah. Step it up, folks. That's some news.
We do some news,
Did you guys do any news stories today that you want to regurgitate on my podcast?
No, because we didn't have a comedian on today. We had an ex-neo-Nazi on today. By the way, I told him on the show, I always thought they were neon Nazis, like they wore neon, like colors, like from the 90s or something. No, but it's neo. Do you know what neo means?
I think it means new.
You're right. I didn't know that. Yeah,
neo means new. Yeah.
But so the new Nazis have been around for a long time, and the old Nazis are not around. What would happen if new Nazis come around now?
I don't know. They'd be like, they're like, you guys wear bell bottoms. We wear skinny jeans. I don't know.
I wonder who came up with that. Like, instead of just calling, they're like, okay, so the old Nazis get defeated, World War II, not that long ago, and then you get these guys. They come around, they say, hey, old Nazis are out, new Nazis are in. And they go, what should we call ourselves? The new Nazis. They go,
this guy was a prisoner. Did he go to prison?
Yeah, he went to prison.
Wow.
He kidnapped somebody. He kidnapped an Antifa, he said, an Antifa guy.
Wow.
And they beat him pretty bad, and they tried to get ransom money. And he told me in the podcast, which was really interesting, there are rules to kidnapping. There's like unwritten rules. Like you have 12 hours, 8 hours to get the ransom amount of money, and then the next 4 hours you can drop the price if you didn't get the first amount. And if you don't get the lower amount, you have to either kill them or let them go.
Wow.
And they let this guy go, and he went to the police and got him arrested.
Wow.
But then he said many, many years later, he's a reformed neo-Nazi, and he's in recovery for alcohol and drugs, and he was like interviewed on TV or something, and then he runs into the guy he kidnapped at a bar randomly.
Wow.
And he goes, "Hey, did you used to be in like the Antifa or whatever?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you get kidnapped one time?" He looks at me and goes, "Oh, hey!" He goes, "It's you."
Yeah.
He goes, "Look, I just want to make amends. I'm really, really sorry that we kidnapped you and beat you up and all that."
Damn.
And he goes, "I saw you on TV and I see that you're a changed man." And he says, "And I'm sorry I went to the police on you." He goes, "No, you don't get to take this away from me."
Yeah.
It's really interesting. He goes, "No, it's my apology."
Wow, they should do a sitcom together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know this. Like, the whole
I'm Mr.
Antifa-
Kidnapper. I'm Mr. Wow.
Yeah, there's all these subcultures
Wow.
of Antifas and Nazis, and they're all fighting while the rest of us are just trying to figure out, what's open to get a bite.
Yeah. I know. It's like, should I get almond butter or peanut butter? Almond butter's better for you, I heard. But
It's really interesting.
Yeah, right?
The juxtaposition of how innocent some of our lives are compared to, like, when you watch Breaking Bad, they did a great job
Yeah.
of that, like, just showing, like, the innocent life next to the crazy life and how they all exist in plain daylight right next to each other, and people don't see it.
Were you, is your podcast studio, is it at your home?
Yeah.
Were you a little nervous, like, hey, we're inviting this guy, he knows where I live
he's
now?
a reformed, he goes around, telling people not to be Nazis anymore. So I don't know.
That's cool.
See, and then he found out that he's Jewish.
It's always like that. I think I've heard that sort of thing before, right?
A lot of times.
Yeah, where they're like,
People, hate something or hate on something, but nobody ever finds out they're black.
yeah.
They're like, wait a minute, I'm black.
Wait a second.
You kind of know that one. But yeah, I guess you can find out if you're Jewish. You never find out you're Asian. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Turns out I'm Chinese. I had no idea.
I had no idea. So before the show, I go, what do I go, what's a good kicking off
But you
topic?
do hear people, by the way, who are against gay people, and then they, come out as gay themselves.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's usually like that, or like the person that's,
They're either going to find out they're gay or Jewish or gay Jews, but that's about it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But and anyways, I was gonna say before the show, you asked me if I ever had a strange job, so I'm gonna ask you: did you ever? What was one of your stranger jobs, or
I
just
never had a strange job? What kind of question is?
You told me to ask you.
I was in Israel for a year, in between high school and college, and I did some study abroad, and it was a work-study program. And I got offered different opportunities for the work for 3 months. So it was a 3 month, you get to work in a job in Israel and see what it's like to work in another country there. And one of the options was to work at this place called Mitzpetat Yami, which is Hebrew for the Underwater Observatory.
Wow.
Which was basically a marine biologist study center and aquarium. Open to the public. So I was like, I'll do that. I like fish, I like fish. I like them with mashed potatoes. And no.
Like, when do we eat? No.
So I went and I worked at this aquarium, and it was only 3 weeks. And I'm sorry, it was 3 months.
Wow.
It was only 3 months, but I guess that's a significant amount of time, and it felt like a long time. So the first thing they'd have you do early in the morning is they'd go, you need to go outside and shovel sand. That's what the guy who was the boss, he kind of sounded like an Israeli Arnold Schwarzenegger. You need to shovel sand. So we'd go out with these big, imagine those plastic garbage cans that you'd get at like Home Depot.
Yeah.
You had to fill them up with sand from the beach, and it's super hot. You're on the border of Egypt and Israel, right? And the Red Sea there. And the sun, even early in the morning, you have to go out early, otherwise it's way too hot. So you have to get out there before it
Sounds
gets...
like Fresno.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess, but much hotter.
How hot does it get?
How hot does it get? I'll tell you. You know?
Okay, all right. It was fried fish by 3.
I don't know, but I mean, like
It was over 100 degrees.
It's burning hot. It's the summer too that I was working there, so it's the summer in a very hot part of the country, and so you have to go out before it gets really hot. But it's still really hot.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in as bad shape physically as I am now, but I wasn't in great shape, and I'd be sweating like crazy. You have to fill these garbage cans with sand, and then drag these heavy sand-filled garbage cans from the beach back to the observatory, which was right off of the beach, but still, it's still hard to move a sand-filled garbage can even an inch.
Yeah.
So you had to do this every morning because, or maybe it was 3 mornings a week, I think, but because the sand in the bottom of the, I don't know what you would call them, not displays, but where the fish are, collects bacteria. And so I'd have to then get an underwater vacuum and vacuum up
Wow.
and vacuum up the old sand.
Yeah.
And then replace it with dump these garbage cans with the new sand in, so that the fish wouldn't die because they needed whatever it is from the sand that wouldn't be bacteria filled. So that was part of it. Then it gets a little crazier. Then the sea turtles, which were massive, there may be about some of them were maybe about as long as half of your body, from your head to your waist. That's big sea turtle, right? They all got sick, and they got constipated. So part of my job then had to be to put on gloves and shove my hands into the rectums of these sea turtles to put medication, suppositories in these sea turtles.
That must have been that must have felt strange to do that.
I loved it. Every moment of
Yeah. Oh gosh. You're like, I'll volunteer. Can I work extra hours?
I had to put suppositories
In a turtle's rectum.
Yeah, I did watch an octopus give birth. I was holding some of his arms. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
But I push.
Yeah.
I watched an octopus give birth. That was really interesting. And I saw the seahorses have babies, tons of babies.
Wow.
They just come out of them. Tons and tons of little seahorses come out of the seahorse. And then in the last month, they had a shark tank. And the shark tank were all rescues. People talk about their dog's a rescue.
Damn.
These were all fishermen injured a shark, and they bring them in, and these were protected sharks, and they'd rehabilitate them, and that's the sharks that people would see. And I was a little crazy back then, and I was young, so I didn't have a wife or kids or any of those things that you might hesitate to do this kind of thing, but I was looking
You
for
put
a rush.
you don't tell me you put your hand up a shark's rectum.
More than that, dear. These sharks were asking for it.
Yeah. Isn't there a song about that, like "Under the Sea" by Bobby Darren?
Isn't that Under the Board? No.
Oh, you don't know "Under the Sea"? You know "Under the Sea"
From the Little Mermaid?
Maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
I was I want to do so people, the way the Shark Tank was you could go right up to the glass and see the sharks.
Yeah.
Or you could walk up the stairs and walk on a bridge above the water and look down over the bridge to the open water where you'd see the fins and the sharks, right? And because there's tourists coming throughout the day, inevitably what's going to happen, whether it's intentional or unintentional, garbage falls in to the shark tank. A wrapper from a candy or, potato chip bag or whatever it is gets into the water. Somebody has to go at night. You know those guys who have the pokers on the side of the highway and pick up the litter?
Yeah.
Someone has to go in scuba gear
No.
in there with the poker and pick up the garbage.
Wow.
So I said, I want to do it. I was looking for a rush, I was that was crazy.
I thought you were going to say like a skim, like in the swimming pool with long butterfly net type of thing.
No, you literally go in with the sharks. So they'd gotten this big 200-pound tiger shark. They called her Big Mama.
Oh, no.
She was injured by an Egyptian fisherman and brought in. And she was aggressive. And
Do they give you a cage to be inside of?
No,
like a shark
there's no
cage?
cage. I mean, it's Israel. I don't know. The rules are different, you know.
And they know you're like a foreigner, like an American.
They got rockets falling all over the place. They're like,
Yeah.
you're not getting a cage. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So they said, look, I don't know if you. I said, look, I took some scuba lessons. I can do scuba. I could do a brush-up course here if you want. I'm good at scuba at the time. And I said, I'd love to do it. I want to get in with the sharks. You know, there's liabilities and stuff. I had to sign all these contracts that if I got eaten by the sharks or whatever, there'd be no legal repercussions for my family or for me.
The more I'm signing it, the more nervous I was getting. But you're probably getting even more
I was
excited.
excited. I was like, it's an adrenaline rush, and I've always.
That's how I was when I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those papers, like, let's go, let's go.
I thought you were saying you felt like you were going into a Shark Tank.
You're like, let's effing go.
So I was like, I want to go in with the sharks, and I asked them. They finally said, okay, you're gonna have to sign all these papers. And I got to do it, and so they give you all they give you. You have the thing to pick up the trash, and then you have
How many are in there when you go in there?
quite a lot. But the big one was the tiger shark.
And that's the one you mainly wanted to keep your eye on?
Yeah, the other ones were not tiger sharks. The tiger sharks are the massive. Like
Yeah. How big? Like as big as your body?
much bigger.
Because I remember the turtle was half your body. So a tiger shark
No, this
is
was
like,
bigger.
like 6 feet, 7, 8 feet.
I think they said it was 200 pounds. I'm more than 200 pounds now, but I don't know. It was like
They're long though. Right?
they're long, yeah.
And they were swimming around. Like,
Yeah, it's big shark.
would you guys feed the sharks first before you go
So
in there?
yeah, they
That way-
feed them first.
Yeah.
They throw in all kinds of stuff, squids and all stuff that they eat, and you see them all going like they all kind of lurk up to the food and snatch it at the same time and rip it apart, and they're crazy. But then once they've had enough to eat, then you go in, and the hope is that you don't bother them, they don't bother you. But if they do bother you, the other thing they give you is a stick, and it's just basically looks like a giant matchstick. It's got a thing tied at the tip of it, which is like, I think, like some kind of a softer material. I don't remember what it was, but let's imagine that it's a cloth with foam underneath or something, and it's tied on, and it looks like a big matchstick. And they say you jab them with the stick if they come at you, like go for the gills or the nose, or
like a
just
Nerf
try and-
footballs at the end, kind of.
I thankfully
Like
never
a
had to
sponge.
do it. They never came at me, but I always was like, if that happens, it's probably the end of me, because I don't think I'm gonna have the coordination to hit the shark in the right spot, or I'll just piss him off more.
Yeah.
But I went for it. To my credit, it's one of the only things I can tell you that was a great, brave moment for me, and I got to go in with the sharks and collect the trash, and that's the craziest job I ever had.
Yeah, you're like, your turn. Okay, so one time I worked at a Pizza Hut. And yeah. Did they ever bump up against your body?
No.
You weren't like, oh, what the fuck?
They didn't. No, they never came. I never came in. But what I did get to do, sharks shed their teeth, and so I would collect the teeth, and I give them to people.
Do you still have any of them?
No.
Wow.
I wish.
Did you ever
People make necklaces with them and stuff,
Heck yeah. It's like when you ride a motorcycle, you might go like 30 miles an hour, and then eventually, like, this is boring, then you go 40. Did you ever get to the point where you were like, okay, this is getting a little dull? Like, did you feel like, I want to try to get a little close to these sharks?
No, it was never dull, because you're in there. They're still like, inches away from you.
Oh, inches?
They don't touch you, but they swim right past you.
Wow.
And like you're right there. There's no cage. There's no nothing. And but they didn't bother me. They didn't try. And every time I was in there, it's an adrenaline rush. Yeah. It's so exciting to be in the water, like with sharks, because you just don't know what's gonna happen. And if you're young and you're not thinking like, I really want to be around necessarily. Not like I was thinking I don't want to be around, but there's just young people think differently, you know?
Yeah, they have those shark cages where people go in there and they put them in the ocean and then they.
I tried to do that in South Africa. When I was in South Africa to do shows,
Yeah.
in Cape Town, you can go with the great whites in a cage. And so I was like very excited to do that. And it's interesting, it's where two oceans meet, the Indian Ocean and...
Are you talking about sharks?
No, in Cape Town, South Africa. There's the two oceans meet, and there's a spot there where where there's a ton of great white sharks. And you're a tourist, you can go and they'll put you in a cage and they'll drop you down so you can see the great white sharks up close.
Wow.
So I was like, I gotta do this. So
I wonder what that neo-Nazi would call those sharks. The really great white shark. No, the really, 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 really great. No.
well, they are skinheads.
Oh gosh.
I
knew there's a joke in there somewhere.
So I go there, and then in South Africa the currency is rand, and I think it was something like 1,400 rand to do it.
Wow.
And I only had 1,200 rand, and it was like a cash business or something. And I don't think I even had credit cards. I didn't. That's what. Maybe it wasn't a cash business, but I only had cash. I was living off. I was very broke when I went to South Africa, which is a whole nother story. But I'm like, look, it was my only day to do it. I was leaving Cape Town the next day, and I'm begging them. I'm like, I'm just 200 short. Please, 1,400. I got 1,200. Let me go. And there's like a little back and forth where they seem like they're considering it and everything, and then they're just like, no, you have to have the full amount. And I couldn't go, and I was like devastated. And I found out since then that those cages are not very reliable, and more often than you'd believe, the sharks break into the cages.
I saw a video on TikTok where the thing, like, it went into the cage and then and they were like, oh my God. And, and then it freaked out and the shark got itself out of it. And there was a person in there.
But people do die. People die from those things.
Yeah.
You know, and especially you're in South Africa.
Yeah.
Who cares? Nobody even knows you're down there.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think? If you die, they're going to report it.
I know.
It's just like, okay, well, he got eaten by a shark. We never met him. That's never happened.
Yeah. I saw something for the first time. I saw there was a rodeo, and they had a shark cage type of situation, and you can be out there in the middle of the rodeo, and the bull can, like, as it's chasing the round, and it kind of goes right near your cage, and it gives you a thrill.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about sharks. It's mesmerizing. So. For me, anyway, I think for a lot of people, because they move in a majestic kind of way, and they never stop moving, and there's danger involved in them, and they're beautiful, they're sleek, Do
you feel like you're a comedian that's like a shark, like you never stop moving, you're out there.
I always stop moving.
You've been on the go since 7 a.m. You're sleek. You're upstairs, you're downstairs, you're podcasting.
No, I'm not sexy enough to be a shark.
You're a good shark.
Not even a hammerhead.
Yeah, hammerhead. We're land sharks.
Yeah. No, but like they do call cars land sharks, right? Like, wasn't there a car that was
I think
a
so,
land shark? They design cars to look like sharks. Because sharks are sexy the way they look, the shape of them. Something about sharks is very appealing to humans. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm even talking about
No, but that's cool. That's interesting, that job. It's funny because, most of my jobs came, like, in the beginning, like, even before, like, as I was doing, beginning to be a comedian, a stand-up.
Yeah.
And, they're mostly from that era, like the late teens, early 20s. Mm-hmm. I did get a job at a temp service, and that was interesting because you got to see what it's like to, work on an assembly line for 2 weeks and then deliver radiators for a week or work at the weirdest, I don't know if it was it was nothing like your job, but we did get to clean out a department store that went out of business. So it basically like a Macy's or something like that. So you got to go into the storage area and just, load up all these mannequins and put them in dumpsters. And it was a little creepy because it's like...
throw them in the dumpsters?
Yeah, they had us do that, yeah.
Oh, that's sad for those mannequins.
I know, it was a little like, I mean, it's, you're like...
There's infinite amount of art students that would have loved those.
I know. That was weird. I remember one of the cooler jobs was delivering radiators. That was fun because it's like, you get to drive around, listen to like classic rock or whatever
Yeah.
the music was, and it was pretty easy to find the address, so that was cool.
Right.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
How am I doing? You're getting warmer.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And now we have GPS, so you don't even need It's funny. Are you old enough to memorize? Did you have phone numbers memorized, or is it all like on your phone?
Yeah, I did memorize.
Yeah,
phone
me
numbers,
too.
yeah.
And same thing with I know how to get certain places without GPS, like places I've been to before.
718-358-4947. You know who that is?
No.
That was my grandparents' phone number. They're no longer around. Thanks for bringing down the podcast.
And that closes the pocket party.
I don't know who that would reach now, but that used to be my grandparents' number.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of numbers. And it's funny, I have a story. There's a comedian that I started out with, and we used to be very, very close, and we grew apart, and he wasn't particularly nice.
After the friendship sort of...
Well, that's why the friendship sort of, he wasn't a very loyal friend, and he wasn't, and anyway, he went on to have some modicum of success. I think he had a lot of comics that they kind of look like they're going to hit it, and then they fizzle out, and so that happened with this guy. But we were very, very close friends when we were starting out together, and, I thought very highly of him back then before things went bad. Anyway, I heard him on a podcast maybe 7 years ago, and he was talking about his life, and he had a really rough childhood, and I knew his dad, and I was friends with him when his dad passed, and I knew that his dad was a guy who worked in the underworld, let's say, right? He worked in the shadier parts of the world. And so what I didn't understand was the extent of that. So now he goes on this podcast and he starts talking about his dad and his dad's criminal behavior and activities that he did and all this stuff. And I knew his dad. And anyway, I was thinking to myself, a guy who grew up with that kind of father and that kind of world and that kind of life, it's not surprising that, maybe he didn't act in the most upstanding way, and he was going through a lot, and his father had just died, and we were both young, and, there's a lot of emotions there, and, we're starting out in comedy in Manhattan, and it's exciting, and the stakes seem high, and everything is amplified. And I started thinking, he said on the podcast that he's married now, and I think he said he either had a kid or he was having a kid, and I was married or had just gotten married, and maybe it wasn't 7 years, maybe it was 5 years ago. It was about 5 years ago, because my wife had just gotten pregnant, and I said to myself, or 6 years ago. But anyway, I said to myself...
Maybe it was 6.5.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? We're different people now. We're grown men. We have families. We have wives.
Yeah.
Maybe I should reach out to this guy and give him a call. And I still remembered his phone number because it was from the era when you still remember phone numbers.
Yeah.
So I called him, see if that's still his number. I said, maybe we could hash things out. And
you didn't text. You just said, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, I'm just going, let me see if that's still his number. And I didn't have it saved in my phone anymore, but it was still saved in my mind. So I thought, let me give him a call and see if, there's what to figure out here between the two of us. And maybe we could get together or, get a lunch at a diner or something and catch up on old times. We have a lot of memories together. So I called him up. And he answered. And he's like, who's this? Because my number's different. And I said, it's me. And he goes, oh, hey. I said, hey, I heard you on that podcast, and you got pretty deep, and you were talking about your dad, and I remember your dad and all that. And And I thought I'd give you a call. And, I didn't have your number saved, but it was still saved in my memory. I still remember your number.
Wow.
And he goes, well, that's kind of weird and creepy. I was like, oh, all right. That's all I needed to know. I said, well, anyway, I hope you're doing good. And I hung up. But, that was,
Wow.
That was...
He wasn't just being a comedian trying to do a quick joke because he's uncomfortable.
Just the way he said it, I just felt like...
Oh, yeah, I gotcha.
I just felt like, okay, well, maybe there's no reason to rekindle this. But, I said, okay, well, we should get together sometime. He said, oh, yeah, sure. And I said, okay, I'll talk to you later, bye. And then I never followed up again. But, I thought it's cool that the number is saved because, it's somebody who meant something to me.
It's like when
enough,
Yeah, exactly. There's... Before Facebook knew people's birthdays, there's a few people I knew. I don't know. I remembered their birthday. I don't know. I know their birthday.
Yeah. So,
do you see this guy pop up online or on Instagram?
Not really. I don't know that he does much comedy anymore or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I wish him well. And our lives back then and our lives now are completely different. It was like a lifetime ago. We were like I said, we were kids. We were literally just starting,
Yeah. It's like I think about this. I think my son was in elementary school, and he asked me how many of my friends from elementary school am I still friends with, and it was kind of sad because I'm like, none really. I mean that I know of. If you're a friend and you're listening, I apologize. I just in the moment I can't remember, But also, it's kind of a lesson, like all these drama and stuff that you go through, like in school.
Yeah.
It's like it kind of don't matter. It's like you're gonna get new friends, and maybe you still will have some friends from back then, but it's also like birds of a feather flock together, as they say, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting, like I was talking about that Israel program that I went to. One of the guys. Well, the guy who I was closest with from that program, he and I became roommates in Manhattan. He went to Hunter College. I went to Baruch College. After Israel, we decided to get an apartment together. And long story short, he got very into drugs. We didn't wind up rooming together anymore for a while. We fell out. We fell back in. He stole some money from me. I forgave him. Right before I got married, I was holding on to this grudge. I decided to call him, and I didn't want to go into marriage with bad stuff on my chest, so I had a few people I wanted to call. I called him. We made amends. He literally called me right before I left my hotel room to go get married. He called me back, and he wished me well on my wedding and gave me blessings and stuff. And I said, well, let's get together. Let's get together now that we're good. And then he moved to Miami and became a very famous street artist, doing murals, and became very respected in the for many years. He'd been working his way up in basically the graffiti world, but then he became a very famous street artist. And then tragically, I think he had a drug overdose and passed away.
Oh.
And I never got to see him again. But he was a very important person to me. Anyway, the other person, who was my other roommate in Israel with him, he and I, when we got back, we kind of lost touch. We didn't have this whole thing. We didn't become roommates. We didn't really, keep in contact. We only wound up talking when this other guy died for the first time in, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. When that guy died, I got a call from him saying, hey, let's talk, because we both, he had kept in touch with him, and I had kept in touch with that guy, the one who passed away. But he and I had not kept in touch with each other. So we both, had what to talk about, memories with this guy who had passed away.
Yeah.
And then I never heard from him again until this week. And he called me up. He said, I'm in LA. I'd love to get together. And I said, hey, I'd love to see you. And we made a time to meet. And then I called him to confirm, and he said, actually, I moved my airline ticket up because my kid has got something going on, and I don't want to miss it, so I'm going back. So we didn't connect. But the reason I bring it up is because you have these little relationships in your life that you just don't know if they exist or if they don't exist, and every now and then they kind of pop up, and sometimes you have these little, like, I call them bottle episodes. Like in a sitcom, you have a bottle episode where it's like it doesn't really fit in with the whole rest of the sitcom.
Yeah.
But like you have these bottle episodes in life where it's like, oh, that's I like when that cast member, you bring him in, he's a guest star.
Yeah.
But there's a backstory to the guest star. Like they went to college together, or they this or they that, right? And then they're just there for that one episode, and then they're gone again. And you have people like that in your life.
Right.
And those relationships are kind of
wild.
interesting.
Yeah. And like my wife and I've been married for 27 years. It'll be 28 this August. And I have I have a couple of friends that have been married, divorced, probably going to get married again. It's all that weird stuff where you're like, you see how their relationships, and you're like, man, I'm really glad I was thinking about that. Like, I married my wife, we were both in our 20s, and it's like, and it's great. I'm really blessed that I found her, and she found. She's blessed that she found me. That sounds terrible. No, but I am so lucky that I found her, because she's funny and she's smart, and we get along great. We don't, even when it's. I was thinking about this. Like, you ever have that friend, like, when it's quiet, they get uncomfortable with silence. Like, they feel like they have to constantly ask questions or talk, or what you eating? How's it taste? What's going on? What are you doing tonight?
Yeah.
It's not like that with my wife and I. It's like, it's great. If we want to talk, we talk. If we don't, it's great.
It could be interpreted differently. Yeah, it's not like that with my wife and I. It's always silent. We don't say a damn word to each other. Nobody feels like they need to say anything.
Yeah. There's nothing to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. We talked about it in our 20s. No.
Oh, it's great. My wife and I, it's totally cold in the house. Nobody speaks. We sit at the dinner table. You can hear the cutlery.
Yeah. The scraping. Cling, cling, cling. No, like, I remember I had a comedian friend that we did the road, and I said, hey, just crash in my room. We're only going to be, in the room for, like after the show, and then we'll leave early in the morning. Uh-huh. And it was one of those nights where I got up to use the restroom. Yeah. 3 in the morning, got up to use the restroom at 3 in the morning. Now, if this happens with me and my wife, it's like I might wake her up briefly, and then, she might see the bathroom light, and then I, whatever. I use the restroom, go back to bed, boom, it's done, right? That's, okay, my wife's. But with this comedian, he saw this as an opportunity to start talking, dude. It's like, literally, I'd been asleep for 3 hours. I woke up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then I hear from the dark, he's in the other bed. He's like, "Are you still awake?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Did I really bomb tonight?" And I'm like, "No, you did good, man. You did good." I'm just like, just one word answers. I'm like, "No, you did good." "Are you sure? I felt like I bombed." "No, man, you did good. You did good." "Okay." And then like 10 seconds, 30 seconds go by. "Man, I really ate it up there." And this thing went on for like an hour, dude. Like an hour, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I was just thinking like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, wow. Like, I was like, man, I miss, like, my wife and I have this connection. I'm like, it's like, dude, like,
Well, yeah, I mean, people have a hard time processing it, when they don't do well too. And
yeah, exactly.
It's just like, there's no amount of validation that's gonna fix that bad set. There's nothing you can say. There's no repairing it. I mean, the part of it is like he wants to almost talk you into thinking that it wasn't as bad as it was because it's embarrassing that another comic saw this. It's almost like, for a comic, like, it's almost like he saw you do something very dirty and embarrassing, and now he's trying to wipe your memory of it. He's like, you didn't see that, right?
Yeah. I go, you did great. He's like, did I? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, a bomb is so shameful for a comedian.
Yeah.
That, another comedian sees you bomb, and then you think, oh my gosh, I've just, in that person who I respect's mind.
Yeah.
I've just established myself as a complete fraud. This person now thinks that I've been pretending to be a comedian our entire friendship, and everything about me is now not trustworthy.
Right.
It's like,
I was like,
it's like that's what he's trying to. He's sitting there going, because I know this kind of thinking. Like, it's like he's sitting there going like, oh my gosh, Darren thinks I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And coupled that with the fact that he needs some kind of validation because of the insecurity of having bombed, but he's also going like, oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a salvageable relationship with this guy anymore. I don't know if I could face him. I don't know. He must think everything about me is a lie because I've established myself. I said I'm funny. He saw otherwise. So anything I tell him at this point may not be true. If I say, you know, I'm a good runner, he's going to think he's not a good runner. He's not good at anything he says he's good at.
Yeah.
So he's going to...
I know. I was thinking, because I thought he did great. I thought he did fine. He was the host. I mean, how good could a host do, right? But I think what happens was the middle act was one of those middle acts that likes to bust balls and joke around.
Yeah.
And so he was joking around with them, but they didn't have that kind of friendship yet or relationship yet.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like the middle act, you know, would do jokes like he would say, like, he would tell the audience members like, hey, what'd you think of this guy, huh? He didn't do too good, did he? Or he'd make those kind of jokes.
Right.
And so the host was like, did I bomb? Oh, you know.
Yeah.
But I was just in my mind, I'm thinking, let's talk about it when the sun's out. Like,
yeah, well, there's nothing. Sleep is the best remedy for any of that.
yeah,
you know?
right.
Like,
After you bomb, I always just like, you know, like you said, take a shower, you know, relax in the shower, put some music on, and then just get ready for the next show. You know, like there's another show coming around the mountain tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
It is all technically meaningless. So you know, whether you do great or you don't do great, what's the word? Ethereal. These are moments in time that, you know, slip away and mean nothing in the greater scheme of things, you know, as you're building towards something, you know. Like,
yeah, and usually, you know, we're at a stage now. We're usually playing places that are receptive to comedy. Usually, when you bomb, it's usually because it's some weird place with like round tables and.
My friend Khalees Hawkins and I were talking recently. She's so funny. She's a comedian in New York. I'll give her a shout out. Khalees Hawkins, very funny. And we were reflecting on the early days of comedy, and we used to play this place called the Village Lantern. And it could be tough there sometimes, you know, to do well. And she said something so funny and insightful to me. She's like, we thought we were there learning how to be comedians. She goes, and we were. But we were comedians. The problem was, a lot of it was not that we weren't funny. A lot of it was that the people we were performing for hadn't learned how to be an audience.
Yeah.
She's like, because they were not. She's like, now that you go up for comedy audiences, they know how to be an audience. They're like, we're a comedy audience. We're in for a comedy show. She's like, these were people that were just pulled off the street randomly. They had no concept that they were going to a comedy show. And now they're told, hey, you're a comedy audience. And they're like hell I am, you know?
Like I'm here to play pool. What are you talking about? My friend told me whenever he'd play in a place where there was a pool table, he would discreetly pick up the cue ball and stick it in his pocket. That way they couldn't play pool while he was up there. You know? And then he'd put it back down after a second. Good night, everybody. Oh, here's your cue ball back. Good night, everybody. Oh, 8 ball.
What a move. Yeah, but these people, they're like, you know, they're in the village or in the West Village. They're probably going out to play beer pong. And then some desperate young comic is like, hey, free show downstairs. And they're like, all right, I guess I'm, you know, in meandering through life anyway. I mean, because they don't have plans. Who are these people that have no plans?
I know.
You know, like, I can't do that. Like, now I look back at it, too. I'm always like, how did we fill rooms with like 50 people who had no plans? I never don't have plans. I'm never going nowhere and can stop for a 2-hour detour.
Especially to watch up and coming comedians.
Yeah, they're just sitting there perplexed, like, how did I get pulled into this basement? What was I supposed to be doing?
Well, Danny, I gotta get going, but I want to say thank you for being on the podcast, Pocket Party, and you'll be back again, I hope. And
did I bomb? Was it good?
Oh, you did great. You did great, Danny. You did great.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Was it great?
Oh my gosh. Oh. All right, we gotta go.
I'm just gonna do this all night.
I'll see you later, buddy.
Thanks, Darren.
You did great. Well, look at you. You made it all the way through the Pocket Party podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it, leave a comment. Those comments really do help the algorithm. And if you click that link and buy me a coffee, you can do any amount you want. You can do any amount. And check out Danny Lobell. I'm still with Danny, and Danny, he thanks you also for starting the party.
Oh yeah, and I got a special out on Amazon, and you can rent it for $2.99. It's called Reconquistador, and I named it something that you'll never be able to spell. Fine. Yeah. But put in Daniel Lobell, Lobell, and then try to spell the word Reconquistador, and you'll see a half documentary and half stand-up special about me performing in Spain. So
I saw it with Fraser Smith in the movie theater, and it was awesome.
Thank you for saying
that's cool. I got big stars on my show. That's right, man. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Right.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to The Pocket Party.